So Jeff Bezos was recently questioned by Congress, and there was an interesting point made by a guest on The Rising that Jeff Bezos is not in charge of Amazon by the way he answers his questions. And so let's look at first the...
is he the C? What is his position
he's the
at
CEO
Amazon?
at Amazon.
What?
So let's take a look at their coverage of it, and then we'll take a look at the actual congressional questions.
Let's just play again Pramila Jayapal versus Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos on whether Amazon uses specific third-party seller data when creating its own brands.
Bezos, in July 2019, your employee, Nate Sutton, told me under oath in this committee that Amazon does not, quote, use any specific seller data when creating its own private brand product. So let me ask you, Mr. Bezos, does Amazon ever access and use third-party seller data when making business decisions? And just a yes or no will suffice, sir.
Okay, so what she's asking basically is, does Amazon look at what's selling really well, like what third parties, not what you're selling, but what third parties, what anyone else is selling on the platform, and using that data to create its own first-party products, which it then prioritizes and sells more of?
Yeah, and then gives it an advantage?
Yes. And so let's watch his answer. She's asking just a simple yes or no will suffice. And so let's see.
Like, is it doing that? Yeah, that's a very specific thing to be doing. And is it doing that?
I thank you for the question. I know it's an important topic, and I also want to thank you for representing us. But I can't answer that question yes or no. What I can tell you is we have a policy against using seller-specific data to aid our private label business. But I can't guarantee you that that policy has never been violated.
So basically he says, we have a policy that we can't do it, but I can't guarantee you it hasn't been violated.
They don't use the seller data. They use their own data. They just see the product SKUs moving.
Well, he knows
they don't need to. They don't need to use the seller's data.
He knows they're not going to pass an audit, so he's just going to answer like that. Like he knows if they do just a little bit. He's talked to all
his lawyers.
If they just look into a little bit, they're going to find it. It's that blatant. So let's take a look at The Rising's rest of their coverage.
Friend of the show and research director at the American Economics Liberties Project, Matt Stoller, joins us now to talk about what he took away from the hearings. Great to see you as always, Matt.
Good to see you, Matt. Matt, could you lay out why it was so significant, that Pramila Jayapal moment with Jeff Bezos, which it's also insane. That was the first question asked to Bezos in the hearing. It took like 80 minutes for the world's richest man to even answer a question.
Yeah, I mean, that was really significant because, in Bezos...
How much money did he make stalling that long?
He's not really in control of Amazon. I mean, that was what was shocking about that answer, where, I mean, the basic question was, there are hundreds of thousands of merchants who sell on Amazon. There are a lot of companies that sell their products on Amazon. And Amazon uses the information it gets by overseeing those sales to create competitive products. It's a sort of a form of stealing. And Amazon earlier denied it to Congress, and then the Wall Street Journal came out with a report showing, actually Amazon does this. Jeff Bezos just comes out and says, well, we have a policy against doing this, but I don't know if anybody at Amazon follows it. And that's amazing, because what it indicates is that no one's really in charge of Amazon. And you see this kind of across the board, where these guys kind of seem like they're titans of industry, but in fact, all they really pay attention to is making sure that the toll booth that they control is in working order. But the rest of it, they don't care.
So what he's saying is that Jeff Bezos isn't really making decisions anymore. He's just making sure that Amazon's still selling. And so what's the best money? Yeah, what's the best way to make sure it's selling? It's looking at what's selling best and then copying that. And what they're arguing is that's a form of intellectual theft.
Well, they have the data, and it's technically their data. But again,
it's not their products though, and so
yes,
it's
but
like
they just, because you know what I noticed? I used to spy from Amazon all the time, and I kind of dropped off because I realized their bestseller ones were no longer the quality that was there used to be their bestsellers.
Yeah, so they're prioritizing their first party brand.
Yeah, and I just said an algorithm changed or something changed.
So let's see.
It makes sense. They want to maximize
understanding that
their
understanding that Jeff Bezos isn't actually in charge of Amazon.
How can he be?
Let's take a look at the rest of his answers and the rest of Congress's questions, because it gives you. It's kind of startling. It's like, wow, what do you actually do? Like, what do you actually have control of?
He's a puppet. It reminds me of that congressman.
I will tell you, a former Amazon employee in third-party sales and recruitment told this committee, quote, "There's a rule, but there's nobody enforcing or spot checking. They just say, don't help yourself to the data. It's a candy shop. Everyone can have access to anything they want." Do category managers have access to non-public data about third-party products and businesses?
Here's what I can tell you. We do have certain safeguards in place. We train people on the policy. We expect people to follow that policy the same way we would any other. It's a voluntary policy. As far as I'm aware, no other retailer limits their use of data at all.
There's no actual enforcement. There's no actual enforcement of that policy. So it's voluntary and there's no actual enforcement. So maybe that answers my...
Sorry. No, I think I may have misspoke. I'm trying to say that the fact that we have such a policy is voluntary. I think no other retailer even has such a policy.
Well,
our
that's
enforcement of that policy. We would treat that like any internal policy, and if we found that someone violated it, we would take action against them.
You have access.
So basically, she said, it's alleged that there's a bunch of data that everyone has access to, and it's like a candy store, like anyone can reach into it. Is that true? And he's basically like saying like, yeah, we have a policy against it, but we don't really enforce it. So it's like,
no, he didn't say they didn't enforce it. The person that she talked to that worked there said there's no quality, there's no one enforcing it.
Yeah.
There is a policy. We all know about it. No one's enforcing it. And she's saying, is that true? And he said, he kind of said yes. And then he backpedaled when she repeated, I think, what she had asked him.
Yeah. So it seems like,
and he's like, no, of course we're if there's policy breaking, we're gonna enforce our whatever is for our policy breaking. But
yeah, basically,
like, what is that? What is that exactly?
I have no control.
Because what I see happening in logistics is the Amazon took on a lot of burden in holding a lot of this stuff. And the only way they were able to get the customers was to do that.
But that's not what she's asking, though. She's asking, are you stealing from the data pool? Like, does anyone have access to this data pool? And is there any enforcement against that? And he said no.
There's a policy against it, but no enforcement of whether or not it's been used.
Yeah, so imagine laws with no police. Like, imagine like speed limits, but there's no police enforcing it. Like, what's the point of a speed limit when anyone can just go as fast as they want? Let's keep going. There's a lot.
You have access to data that your competitors do not have. So you might allow third-party sellers onto your platform, but if you're continuously monitoring the data to make sure that they're never going to get big enough that they can compete with you, that is actually the concern that the committee has. And, I think your company started in my district. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the work that you've done and say that the whole goal of this committee's work is to make sure that there are more Amazons, that there are more Apples, that there are more companies that get to innovate and small businesses get to thrive. And that is what we're trying to get at. That is why we need to regulate these marketplaces so that no company has a platform so dominant that it is essentially a monopoly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We heard from a small apparel company that makes and sells what they call useful apparel for people who work on their feet and with their hands, like construction workers and firefighters. This particular business discovered and started selling a unique item that had never been a top seller for the brand. They were making about $60,000 a year on just this one item. One day they woke up and found that Amazon had started listing the exact same product, causing their sales to go to zero overnight. Amazon had undercut their price, setting it below what the manufacturer would generally allow it to be sold, so that even if they wanted to, they couldn't match the price. Here's how the apparel company described working with Amazon, and I quote, "Amazon strings you along for a while because it feels so good to get that paycheck every week. And in the past, for lack of a better term, we called it Amazon heroin, because you just kept going and you had to get your next fix, your next check. But at the end of the day, you find out that this person who was seemingly benefiting you, making you feel good, was just ultimately going to be your downfall," end quote. So Mr. Bezos,
your competitor,
your partners. Why on earth would they compare your company to a drug dealer?
Hey, I take offense.
But I completely disagree with that characterization. What we have done is create in the store, a place. If you go back in time, we sold only our own inventory. It was a very controversial decision inside the company to invite third-party sellers to come into what is really our most valuable retail real estate, our product detail pages. We did that because we were convinced that it would be better for the consumer. It would be better for the customer
Bezos,
to have all of that selection. And I think we were right, and I think it's worked out well.
Reclaiming my time. Unfortunately, this is one of...
Okay, so what happened was he asked him, basically, there was a story that he outlined where there was an apparel company that had a very unique product that was that had $60,000 a year just with that product alone.
Item.
Right. And then all of a sudden the next day when Amazon came out with their product, which was very similar, but at a lower price point and prioritized in the search algorithm, they saw their sales drop to zero. And so when asked about it, Jeff Bezos answers, well, you know what, actually, it's actually in their benefit that we allow third parties to even be on our platform. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what? Like,
I know. I've heard that switch before.
All right,
it's
so
all of a sudden, it's...
So the chairman reclaims his time. So let's see how he addresses this.
My time, Mr. Bezos. This is one of many small companies that have told us during this year-long investigation that they were mistreated, abused, and tossed aside by Amazon. The evidence we've collected shows that Amazon is only interested in exploiting its monopoly power over the e-commerce marketplace to further expand and protect this power. This investigation makes clear that Amazon's dual role as a platform operator and competing seller on that platform is fundamentally anti-competitive, and Congress must take action.
Mr. Bezos,
So what he's saying is Amazon being a platform where people sell, but also a product on the platform
that's what I feel is a lie. They weren't product producers before.
That's what he's saying is it violates a platform, antitrust, and like monopolistic tendencies. Or I'm sorry, I'm high. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, no, they built infrastructure, and that's what they were good on. That's what they built there. The Amazon was good at that.
But now they're basically putting counterfeits into the market that are better than...
They're not better a lot of times.
Well, no,
I got mad at some of those
they're
counterfeit
at a cheaper
stuff.
For the consumer, when they look at the price, then it's better because they're like, oh, you know what? Even if it's like half as good, it's still like it's
definitely like product and copyright issues going on. But they built the infrastructure and now they want to dominate the products. Like it's like you know what? Stay in your.
Let's keep going. This gets better.
Okay.
Action. Mr. Bezos, are stolen goods sold on Amazon?
He doesn't know.
Congresswoman, not to my knowledge, although we're more than 1 million sellers, and so I'm sure that there have been stolen goods sold on Amazon.
Really, Mr. Bezos?
She asked about counterfeits, but then he's now talking about stolen goods, which is completely different. So now it's like he's admitting to two things. Yes, counterfeits are sold and stolen goods are sold as well. So there's no quality control. He doesn't care. As long as they're selling, he makes his money.
Before he made money on the transaction on products he wasn't making. Now he wants to make products, but if there's any bad products, he'll be like, well, I don't know. This is
those are selling. That's fine. Yeah, there's 1 million sellers. What am I supposed to do?
There's not. You don't believe that there is? That surprises me.
No, I just said with over 1 million sellers, I'm sure that it has happened. But certainly, I don't think it's a large part of what we're selling.
Okay, so Mr. Bezos, basically, then you're saying yes.
I guess so.
Mr. Bezos.
Does anyone have Colin Mockery's number from Whose Line Is It Anyways? Because I think we could play him really well.
It's like trying to ask my husband if this shirt is dirty or clean. I'm like, is dirty or clean? Well, yesterday I started to wear. I'm like, I just need to do the laundry right now. Do I throw it in or do I fold it?
Mr. Bezos, thank you so much. You said that sellers have many other attractive options to reach customers, but that's not at all what we found in our investigation. According to eMarketer, a source Amazon cited in submissions to this committee, Amazon has nearly 7 times the market share of its closest e-commerce competitor. One seller told us that, and I quote, Amazon continues to be the only show in town. No matter how angry sellers get, they have nowhere else to go. So are you saying that these people aren't being truthful when they say that Amazon is the only game in town?
Yeah, Congresswoman, with great respect, I do disagree with that. I believe that there are a lot of options, and some of them are not even listed on that chart. I just looked at it briefly, but I didn't see some that I know of, for example. So I think there are a lot of things,
Okay,
and it's
thank you.
dynamic.
So he's like, hey, I don't. So she's like, is Amazon the only game in town? Which is like 50% of the market share, basically, is sold to is sold through Amazon. And he's like, no, I can think of some examples. For example, and then he doesn't list any examples because there are none. You liar. Okay, let's keep going.
Thank you for that.
They're more and
Mr.
more every
Bezos,
day.
my time is short.
There are more other
Have
more
monopoly
companies,
power over
but that's only because it didn't reach 100%. So obviously, there's going to be enough companies to fit 100. But the rest behind him were so little that it's like, yeah, you're going to have 100 companies, and you're still taking up over.
Yeah, it's not going to be a significant amount.
sellers. Do you think they would choose to stay in a relationship that is characterized by bullying, fear, and panic?
With all respect, Congresswoman, I do not accept the premise of your question. That is not how we operate the business.
Okay. All right.
And in fact, we work very hard to
Thank
provide
you for that.
fantastic
Thank you for
tools
that.
for sellers, and that's why they've been successful.
Thank you for that.
Do you believe that the Chinese government steals technology from U.S. companies? Mr. Bezos? You're on mute.
Mr. Bezos, I believe you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm saying I have heard many reports of that, and I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard many reports of it.
So of all the different products that Amazon carries, you haven't seen that in any of the companies that sell products on Amazon or your company yourself?
Oh, well, certainly there are knockoff products, if that's what you mean, and there are counterfeit products and all of that. But the Chinese, if the answer is the Chinese government stealing technology, that's the thing I've read reports of, but don't have personal experience with.
Amazon.
Okay, so what he's asking is, does the Chinese government steal technology? So for people who don't know, Amazon doesn't just sell like physical goods through its store. It also is a web service, meaning it has these huge data centers which hold basically,
service.
yeah, the web. Like Netflix runs off of Amazon Web Services. So I think what the guy's asking is, do Chinese whatever have access to like the AWS data center so they can steal American technologies? And I guess Jeff Bezos answered like, I'm not aware. I've seen the reports, maybe.
I don't know. I'm not a tech person.
Well, yeah, so he doesn't really know how secure Amazon web servers are, actually. So that's actually kind of terrifying.
Well, how do you think all these copycat products come out?
There are
Like,
ways to get the
spec.
source code, but if you have Amazon, if you have access to AWS, like, damn, that's a huge breach. Okay, let's keep going.
Amazon is a $1 trillion company, but Amazon customers are not guaranteed that the products purchased on your platform are authentic. Amazon acts like it's not responsible for counterfeits being sold by third-party sellers on its platform. And we've heard that Amazon puts the burden and cost on brand owners to police Amazon's site, even though Amazon makes money when a counterfeit good is sold on its site. More than half of Amazon's sales come from third-party seller accounts. Why isn't Amazon more aggressive in ensuring that counterfeit goods are not sold on its platform? And why isn't Amazon responsible for keeping all counterfeit products off of its platform?
Thank you. This is an incredibly important issue and one that we work very hard on. Counterfeits are a scourge. They are a problem that is not, it does not help us earn trust with customers. It's bad for customers. It's bad for honest third-party sellers. We do a lot to prevent counterfeiting. We have a team of more than 1,000 people that does this. We invest hundreds of millions of dollars in systems that do this. We have something called Project Zero, which helps brands serialize individual products, which really helps with counterfeiting.
Well,
we have
I'm glad that
other
you have
programs
those
as well.
I'm glad that you have those features in place, but why isn't Amazon responsible for keeping all counterfeit products off of its platform?
We certainly work to do so, Congressman, and we do so not just for our own retail products, but for third-party products as well.
So, Mr. Bezos, does Amazon use confidential information that companies share via AWS to build competing services?
Okay, That's a big question. So he's asking, does Amazon share like access to AWS, which is their huge cloud company, basically like Google and Netflix, like they all run on Amazon Web Services. I think Amazon Web Services control like 50% of the web or something, maybe more. And so he's asking, do you give access to this to other companies so they can look at it and look at the data and see which technology is doing well so they can copy it? That's the question.
No, sir, not that I'm aware of. AWS does often, they do keep expanding their services. AWS started, 15 years ago. We invented this entire category.
Let me just clarify that, Mr. Bezos. I appreciate that. Sorry, apologies for interrupting. But last week, one of Amazon's former engineers posted online that he and his team, quote, proactively identified growing businesses on AWS, that they built competing products, and that they targeted those products to the business's customers. And there's
Okay, so
if he's lost control, maybe we do need to seize control.
What he's saying is an engineer said that we were actively looking through AWS to look at what business products were doing well so we can create competing business products and offer those to customers. That's another version of technology IP
That's the
theft.
Original copy. That's what original patent
It's
laws protected.
It's like
you
when,
aren't supposed to copy like a product. You're supposed to give that producer a good amount of time to be able to sell and his product. But then that's
okay. Well, let's see Jeff Bezos' answer then.
Public reporting on that strategy. So I guess I wonder if you can comment on that and how you would account for those statements.
Well, I think there may be categories, some databases of different kinds and so on, where we see that it's an important product for customers, and we make our own product offering in that arena. But it doesn't mean we stop servicing the other companies that are also making those products. We have competitors using AWS, and we work very hard to make them successful. Netflix
you just always outbid them.
So he's asking like, do you do this? Do you have people like scouring your web services for competitors that are doing well and make your own products? And what he's saying is basically like, yeah, and we let those other guys stay on. Like, what kind of answer is that?
Example, Hulu is another, and so on.
Your own documents make clear that the price war against diapers.com worked, and within a few months it was struggling, and so then Amazon bought it. After buying your leading competitor here, Amazon cut promotions like Amazon.mom and the steep discounts it used to lure customers away from diapers.com, and then increase the prices of diapers for new moms and dads. Mr. Bezos, did you personally sign off on the plan to raise prices after Amazon limited its competition?
Okay, so if you guys don't know, diapers.com was a big website that sold a lot of diapers, and Amazon wanted to buy the domain, but diapers.com would not sell. So what Amazon did was they started offering like, you got free Prime if you ordered like a $50 worth of diapers, and then they like slashed the price of their diapers so that diapers.com couldn't even come close to competing with the prices. And so after basically they dominated the diaper market share because they were selling diapers for so cheap, diapers.com had basically no option but to sell to them because they couldn't make any money. They couldn't compete. After the acquisition of diaper.com, Amazon then raised their prices. And so what this congresswoman is asking is, did you sign off on that plan to raise your prices after you acquired diapers.com?
I don't remember that at all. What I remember is that we matched competitive prices, and I believe we followed diapers.com. Again, this is 11 years ago, so you're asking a lot of my memory, but I believe we followed diapers.com. I can also tell you after we bought diapers.com,
okay,
we put more than $300 million into trying to make it successful.
I'm sorry. So you said that Amazon focuses excessively on customers. So how would customers, especially single moms, new families, how would they benefit when the prices were driven up by the fact that you eliminated your main competitor?
Well, I don't agree. With great respect, I don't agree with the premise. At the same time,
don't agree a lot of
should
premises.
recognize in context, diapers is a very large product category sold in many, many places, not just
Right,
at
but
Amazon
this was
and
the
diapers.com.
online diaper
It's
market.
sold
Now, we do
sold
have
at
evidence that
drugstores
these
and
predatory.
Costco and
I'm
Kroger
sorry,
and
Mr. Bezos.
So she's asking about you're dominating the online marketplace, and the examples he keeps coming up with is brick and mortar like Costco, Kroger's, like the grocery store.
If you're lucky to be close to them, yeah, they get.
All right, so she reclaimed her time, and so let's see what she asks.
I need to push on here. The evidence we've collected suggests that the predatory practices weren't unique here. In 2013, it was reported that you instructed Amazon employees to approach discussions with certain business partners, and I quote, the way a cheetah would pursue a sickly gazelle. Is the Gazelle Project still in place, and does Amazon pursue similar predatory campaigns in other parts of its business?
I cannot comment on that because I don't remember it. What I can tell you is that we are very, very focused on the customer, as you started, and of course that does include
with the
bargaining very hard
customers as
with
well,
vendors and
especially the
suppliers to get the lowest
families in my
prices so that we can
district.
offer
I'm
those
sorry,
to
Mr.
customers.
Bezos, well, I'm almost out of time. I'm concerned too, because especially with the current pandemic, one of the biggest needs I'm seeing at the food drives and the giveaways that we're having to run in my district is that families don't have diapers, and we have to collect them to give them out.
Expensive.
So it certainly is something that has a really hard impact on families, and I'm really concerned that pricing might have been driven up here by this tactic, and I yield back.
So yeah, she calls him out for predatory pricing, rightfully so, and that sucks. So that's Congress grilling Jeff Bezos until he's well done. Hi everyone, hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more.
Happy 420, wherever you are. Bye.
And if you don't have buds, we're your buds.